Hey everybody, I'm Alvin.
And I'm Charles.
Welcome to Tit for Tat, This and That.
Yeah, we are
Here. So today, Charles, what are we going to be talking about? What's our topic of this?
So everybody, welcome. Today we're going to be discussing the latest from Kim Burrell and also Juanita Bynum. Baby, they have been acting a fool in these YouTube streets. And we will correct it today. So we have a few videos that we want to share, and we'll talk a little bit more about some of the things that they did that we want to discuss. So Alvin, if you don't mind sharing our chuckle of the week.
Yeah, and let me say, they have really been in these streets talking, and it's been for years, and it's been going on and on, but not just only them. Lots of people comment. It's kind of contradictory to me though, that now I don't really know about Kim Burrell because they say that she had a gay husband, but that's allegedly. I don't know if that's true or not.
Yeah.
But Juanita Bynum, she actually admitted to having lesbian relationships, and it's just kind of hypocrisy to me.
Well, I mean, everybody has a past, so that's not a problem. But the fact that you will go so hard on a community that you were once part of,
right?
It may still be.
It may still be.
Yeah.
But that's my point. Is you've had experiences or whatever. However you got there, who knows? But
right.
But for you to go and start bashing us, when you know what it's like to be, condemned and not accepted in the church, and then you go and do this same type of stuff. But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and play her. I'm gonna play her comments, and then I'll play Kim Burrell's. And after we do Kim Burrell, then I'm gonna go do the chuckle.
Okay.
Because it kind of ties into ties into
baby,
to her.
There's always a warning before a fall.
Right. So I'm gonna play. Let's see here. I'm gonna go here and do. Let's do Wanita first.
The prophetess.
Mm-hmm. So let me share her screen here.
Brothers, we wearing our pants too tight. Them little bitty suits is worrying me. Them ones that's high waters is cut all up in here so we can count how many you got down there. Something is wrong. Little jackets that's too little, look like you just put on Lil Ray Ray's clothes or something and came to church. I'm not hearing y'all talk to me. To the point, even your little dance scare me. The way you shout scare me. Your knees too close to be a man. Oh, I'm not getting nobody to talk to me right now. Maybe I gotta look down here on the monitor because let me get tipping when you shout. Open up your legs and shout like a man. Y'all better come over here and say something. Y'all up here shout like girls and the women shout like dudes. Yeah. That's it. Close your legs up. You a woman. Where is our difference? The Bible said put a difference. A difference.
Now, where did it say that?
So, what do you think about that? Now, here's the thing. She was talking about the guys wearing their pants too tight and too short. She didn't actually mention like gays, lesbians, or anything, but what she's making the inference to. She's really making it the gay guys and women. Telling women to close their legs or whatever because they're sitting like men, and the gays, the guys with their pants too tight and you can see their whatever, I guess she said you can see their berries,
right?
And then what got me was the guy who was jumping across the stage, agreeing with her, hooping and hollering with her. His pants was the one she was talking about. His pants was tight, and you can kind of see all up in his crotch and his berries. So
let me see it again.
well, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And he was hooping and hollering, and she's talking about you.
Right.
You know, it's this whole hypocrisy. You would think we have come further now, and then I mean, I know the churches a lot of them are becoming more accepting.
Yeah.
Whatever. But I'm just curious of,
It's
go ahead.
it's crazy because as a church in a community, you tell the people, come.
Mhm.
And most of them will say, come as you are or whatever. But then when you get in there, they want to start being the Holy Ghost and start telling you how you should dress and how you should do that or whatever. They want to be God or whatever.
Right.
So, and I would say that there may be a place in there for a person that may not know exactly. Like you may have a person that, they dress a little provocative.
Provocative.
Yes. And so my tongue. Provocative. And so
The way you dance.
well, sometimes if I get a little liquor, yeah. But and they may not know. So you may want to say, hey, come, gently or whatever, not to make them feel bad or whatever. Just let them know, here we kind of cover that up or whatever. Because people may not know. So there is a place for that per se, but I wouldn't say on that platform, that's something you do like in training, like new members orientation or whatever. Kind of like when you do at work. It is not to say, that you can't wear that. It's just like we would prefer you not to wear something like that because it kind of, it's revealing and whatever. But this right here, telling someone how they should praise their deity, is to me is out of order because everyone is everyone's gonna react to a praise. And what I mean by praise is something significant has happened in your life, and you feel or know or that it has come from your divine, your divine person, divine God or whatever. And so you want to give glory or thanks to that deity. So how are you to tell me how I am to give thanks or glory to that deity or whatever? So I think that was totally out of order. Let people praise how they're gonna praise. I mean, she up there with a whole sweatsuit on. I mean, looking like you look like a man yourself.
Probably has done some manly things.
Right. Oh,
if she's been she's been doing some lesbian things, but
exactly.
But
I think it was totally out of order.
But I don't know what you have on. Even if you came in there dragging in there naked, I mean, I know people won't, but maybe what if somebody drug up in there naked because they didn't have anything and they barely had anything on? You're going to turn them away because where in the history of the scrolls does it say you have to wear this to church or to worship, or you have to look a certain way or
right, right?
And according to the Bible, the vagabonds, Jesus, he welcomed everyone into the poor, everything, where does it say in the Bible that, I have to come in there with my Gucci on or,
right.
My AX or what, you have to come in there and look in a certain way. Right. I know in the Black church, they like to dress up and wear the hats and all the fancy clothes and dresses and, and all that stuff. To me, that's more of a show off thing, but, like who's looking at me or how I can be seen. But I didn't see what she had on looked all that great.
Yeah, and it wasn't a church. And from what I can see, it looks like that's her studio or whatever that she teaches out of. So they're not really in a church. So like I said, when you're discussing things like that, that should be something that you do, like I said, like a new members orientation, just so everybody's on the same page or whatever. Because now you're getting in my pocketbook. And now you're becoming my stylist or whatever. So now you're going to go to every member of the church or whatever and start telling them, this is what you should wear. This is how you should dress or whatever. I mean, I just think that's crazy. Why isn't your focus on the focus, which would be Jesus or God or whatever. Why are you concerned about what I'm wearing or whatever? Because my thing, I've heard preachers say this: never let someone praise by themselves. Like if they see someone dancing, and this can get kind of like, it can kind of get like a little fakish to me sometimes, because I've gone to churches where someone is praising and the pastor be like, you don't let that person praise by themselves. And so he's almost like commanding the people to go over there, like, let it just flow how it's going to flow. However, if someone is praising God, you should be praising too. Why are you looking around and looking at their berries or what? Like you said, I can count how many. 1, 2, 3. Whatever. Like, that's crazy. Yeah, it's like it's almost like you're just trying to get likes, and subscriptions or whatever on what you say. You're trying to make the statement of the hour, and so and it went viral.
It went viral.
It did exactly what she wanted it to do.
Into her church, whatever, but. To me, it's like it's a money grab. They
right.
know what to say to draw in their parishioners and to get more money out of them. You can mention gay, homosexual, or whatever, and it just sets people off for some reason. Like, that's sin. Overlooking everything else that they're doing. But it was just ironic to me that she, I know.
And I'm not new to her, so this is on brand for her. This is on brand because if you go back to when she first started, she came out with like no more sheets or whatever. And so she comes out of a church that's, they have a standard of what you should be wearing, like women, no makeup. And like, if you go way, way, way back, she really looks like a whole man. Like she wore her hair short and everything, and the dresses were way down to the feet or whatever. So this is on brand for her to talk about this kind of stuff. But my thing is, I thought it was about souls. I thought it was about getting people in the mindset of Christ and love or whatever. When did it start being about what you're dressed, how you're dressed or whatever? And when you were talking about people. How they worship or whatever, something about dressing or whatever. I thought about David. There's a scripture in the Bible that says David danced out of his clothes. So, what if somebody came to church and they start dancing out of their clothes? They like he was naked, or whatever. So
maybe they had the demon. Okay, we have these movies where the demon done came in and stuff, and then they naked running up the down.
Right. Okay. Where's that church at?
Yeah. I'd like to go. I'm gonna walk in there naked. But you think you at the sex club?
Wait a minute now.
All right. So I'm gonna share this next one we're gonna do Kim Burrell. And Kim Burrell actually does talk about the gays. Juanita Bynum, she was alluding to it. We know that that's what she was really talking about. You guys coming here with these tight pants on and stuff, y'all look feminine. It's basically what you're saying. And you women you look masculine. She looked masculine, but she looked masculine, just like Kim Burrell looks masculine to me too. But anyway, so let's share this Kim Burrell here.
Everybody in this room who's feeling the homosexual spirit, beg God to free you. You play with it, 2017, you'll die from it. I'll feed it for you. You play with it in God's house in 2017, you'll die from it. Free. Don't think about calling my name and take it like Satan. Come on. That sin nature, I'll get down wrong with the other one, but that perverted homosexual spirit is a spirit of delusion and confusion and it has deceived many men and women. And it's caused a strain on the body of Christ. And those homosexual spirits have been angry and they come up against it. You gotta love everybody. Just spit out the serpent. Come on. You cannot give instruction to God holiness with that much immersion.
Okay.
What I have an issue too is when she say, "You supposed to love everybody." You are supposed to love everybody.
But I think they know what they're doing. They know this draws in, can bring in money. You know, and they make money off of the backs of the LGBTQ LMNOP community.
I mean, especially in this day and time, because this day and time, religion is kind of like it's a business, so it is money driven. But taking money out, they're going to preach this anyway because this is the way they believe. Their Bible says a man should not lay with another man, so they're going to teach that regardless. It don't really have to be about money, but I know that is a motive this day and time. But regardless, they're going to teach this anyway because that's what they believe.
Okay, well, I think they know the truth. They know that if they don't, then they don't actually understand the Bible. They may be just going off of what somebody done told them instead of actually maybe studying, the scrolls and the different.
They haven't done that.
They haven't done that. And
this is their truth.
And to be truthful, those are all stories that were written by man, passed down, way after Christ was dead.
Mm-hmm.
They're in all different type of languages, and all of them, they may have some similarities, but if you go and read each one of those,
mm-hmm.
each author who has written in all these other different languages, they're going to always be off because all of them had their own version or interpretation of what it meant. Exactly. And some of them, when they were writing it, a lot of them were illiterate and couldn't write anyway. And the ones who could write could barely read or write. And a lot of them back in that time couldn't even read anyway or write. So the ones who could write, they can just write and leave stuff out, or they write their interpretation of what it was. And that's why in the Bible there's so many. When you can take two of the same scriptures, and then you'll have two different, like Peter and John. They can say the same stuff, but something different, and they write it up different, and it means something different because the words you couldn't translate properly, stuff don't translate even to now. Right. So to me, they know that this is a moneymaker. They know it's a moneymaker. They know how to draw in people, like I said before. If they do know the real words, they're not going to preach that. I don't even think that's their belief. I don't believe that they actually believe that. I know you do, but I don't believe that they actually believe that. I believe that they know they can make money off of this. And all you got to do is say gay, homosexual, and, or just like abortion. You say gay or abortion, and they think that's they throw it into the sin. Forget about their own stuff that they doing and in the church, having sex outside of marriage and, fornication, sleeping with the pastors, the deacons, and, the helmet, everything. You know what I'm saying? It's, forget about that. But you mentioned homosexual or gay, lesbian, or whatever. Sometimes they overlook the lesbian thing, but, when you say gay, they equate it to the men. And then all of a sudden it's this worst sin in the world, over murder and everything.
It's the pressure too when you take a position of being a pastor. Because this was a time where she decided to open a church in Houston. Because before then she was just a soloist, and she's a very good soloist, but she just has a very evil heart, But I think so. The pressure of being a pastor is, especially when you're a part of a denomination, you have to stay on the beliefs and the tenets of that community or that denomination or whatever. So there's pressure, but I believe in her. Like to just piggyback on what you're saying and kind of give some type of agreement to what you're saying, there is there is a part of them, I really believe, that they know that the hatred shouldn't be there.
Right.
This is the same lady that sings with people like Tyrese, a number of singers. I can't. Layla Hathaway or whatever. And not to say these are bad people, but I mean, you know, she doesn't just stay in, you know, the gospel realm. She goes out, and a lot of them, they look up to her, like they've learned from her. So she knows that love is the way. Mm-hmm. However, when she's behind that pulpit, there is pressure that you have to teach, thus said the Lord, of what they think, thus said the Lord. So it's not, I mean, you know, so I do, like you said, I do believe that they know that this can't always, because you probably, I know you got gay people in your family. Like you said, there has been word out on the streets that she was married to a gay man or whatever. So, and that's why a lot of this hatred is there. So it's like, you know that there has to be compassion for everybody, regardless. But like I said, because of this title and this position that you're in, there's going to be pressure to teach this. There are those that have come out and try to do their own thing. Like we have gay churches now. And I love the late Carlton Pearson. He believed that in the gospel of inclusion, where everyone was included or whatever. So there are those that have stepped out of that, but they get dogged. Like Carlton Pearson got dogged when he introduced his way of enlightenment that he felt like came from God, and he started teaching inclusion, that everybody was saved. They just don't know it. Because, I mean, if the cross didn't save you, then what more can you do to be saved? If you need, and the thing about it, what were you getting saved from? Were you getting saved from, you know, God, this evil God or whatever? And then once you get saved, now he's all good? Or you get saved from the devil? Or you get saved from you? I mean, you know, whatever. So it's like, he just got, I mean, they dog him out. Any pastors that come against of what the church has claimed to be the gospel, they get dogged.
But what about the people who have that have different religions than Christianity? You know, what about the people who live in places where there is, you know, there's no Christianity at all, and then they have never heard of Jesus Christ? But do those people quote, if you believe in there's a heaven and a hell, are those people going to hell because they haven't been saved by Jesus and they've never even heard of Jesus, right, or never even heard of Allah or whatever, you know, and they may worship worship the sun goddess, right, or something, or the water, you know, the water snake or something, you know, and then that's their belief. Right. So are those people who have never heard of Jesus Christ, what happens to them then if they don't believe? But anyway, before we get into that, I'm gonna play our little chuckle because it kind of ties into what we're talking about today. I don't condone people hurting themselves, you know, or whatever. But to me, this bitch got what came to her. You know what I'm saying? This heifer, you know, you up there, you know, she wasn't speaking it at that time. She was singing, but bitch, you failed.
Baby, them shoes said, nah, too much pressure, honey.
So we're going to do our, oh, no, you didn't moment, our chuckle, you know, our chuckle of the week.
Yeah. So
we're going to do our little chuckle here, and then we'll move on to our, you know, get into our discussion here. Yeah. So we go over here.
Oh no, you didn't.
Oh no, you didn't, Miss Kid Burrell.
That's bad.
Man, there's so much out there, you know.
Maybe the Lord knocked you down.
Oh, come on, big bitch. Come on. Oh, see, that's what your ass get for coming for them gay folks, Kim Burrell, you big ankle hole.
That is right.
Not that she said that. Baby, them heels had it.
They came for her.
Oh yeah, they would never let her forget it.
But you know, the internet has come for Juanita Bynum too. They attacked her. You know, especially black. You know, the black internet. They went off. You know, even the ones who are heterosexual and straight. What she was saying, you know, they went off on her.
And I want to say too about the Kim Burrell video, because I know a little of the history of it. So, you know, she was preaching and someone happened to, you know, they got to be careful with these phones, because now people can record and, you know, this stuff go viral. And I think a lot of pastors are you know, kind of almost like, you know, there's some concerts that you go to where they say you can't bring your phones or whatever. I think most of them probably at some point are probably going to get to that, but you know, people probably going to be like, well, I ain't coming to your church or whatever. These phones are getting these people in trouble. So anyway, she was preaching at her church. Someone recorded it, and at that same service, and this is where Yolanda Adams and a lot of other people came against her, because she mentioned Reverend Dr. Eddie Long or whatever. I don't know if you remember him.
I remember.
Yes, she mentioned him in that sermon. That's this same sermon, and she said, and she didn't even know. So no, we don't know if that's what he died from, like AIDS or HIV or whatever. We just assume it could have been anything. But she, in her own sermon, and I wish you had a clip of that, but it's probably in there somewhere, where she said that that's what he was dying of or whatever. And Yolanda Adams and a lot of other people came back and said, girl, you don't know that. And why would you say that? If anything, you should be spreading love and, you know, uplifting him. You should have stopped and started praying for him, for his health, for healing to, you know, take over his body, and that every sickness and disease will, you know, will dissolve and he will be healed, you know. But she did not. She chose to go on a rampage against, you know, the gay lifestyle or whatever, for whatever reason. I don't know what that sermon, you know, what sparked it or whatever, but I do remember that was the same sermon that she mentioned Eddie Long, and everybody was in an uproar over that. Well, most people were, because it just felt like you were attacking him and you were already putting a diagnosis on him that wasn't even, you know, you couldn't even verify that. So it was, yeah, it was ugly.
Wow.
It was very ugly.
So let's go ahead. So I got some questions in here, and you have some questions. So one of our questions is: are Black gays marginalized in the church? How do you feel about that? Do you think we're for the people who go to church? You know, I rarely step my foot in there, but you know, I mean, I have, but I rarely do any longer. But do you think like Black gay, and not it's all churches can be like that, you know what I mean? But since we're Black, we're talking about specifically our community. So do you think Black gays are marginalized in the church?
I think everyone at some point is marginalized in the church, because like one of the things when preachers start to talk about gays and all that, we always say, why are you putting this sin, or, you know, if you consider that a sin, which most churches do, why would you consider this higher than the other sins? Like, you know, the deacon is sleeping with the, you know, with the missionary over here, and the choir director is sleeping with the drummer. You know, you have, so it's like, I think everyone gets their bite some in the church or whatever. So I don't, so yeah, the gays are gonna get it. The drunk is gonna get it. The person that's on drugs is gonna get it. The person that sleeps around is gonna get it. Anything that church has deemed a sin, you're gonna get it somewhere in there. Do they hype more on the gay? It depends on what church you go to, because there are some churches that's what they teach every Sunday. It's gonna be gay every Sunday. So it depends. And there are some churches that you never hear. Like I've heard, like at the Potter's house, that T.D. Jakes hardly ever preaches on it, and I'm like,
because his son is gay.
Okay, right. That's what I was gonna say, right?
There's no scandal that he just
okay. Swallowed.
Allegedly
Swallowed. Yeah.
So then, you know, so if there's some churches who don't preach on it, or some churches will preach on it, but they will preach what I would say might be correctly. But these ones who are preaching on it every week and preaching hate and vile that's coming out of their mouth, it can cause a lot of harm.
Yes.
But they're preaching on it every week. If they're preaching on it every week and they have gay congregants in their church, I wonder the people who are sitting there that are gay, lesbian, LMNOP, how do they keep going back every week after week after week? Okay. Because and listen to them, when they're talking about you, when they're talking about you like that. I wonder what goes through your mind or your feelings when you hear that. Do you just block it out and say, "Oh, that's just them"? They're just, I don't understand that part of it.
So,
how does your soul handle that?
So with that, I believe that a lot of people growing up in church and you happen to be gay, when you hear messages like this, it's like, especially, okay, so when you get older and you've heard this all your life, you kind of get numb to it. So some of it is just a numbness. Like, okay, we've heard this, it may go in one ear and out the other for some people. So they're numb to it. Another group of people, they really feel they're struggling inside because they really feel that this is wrong and that what the pastor is preaching is right. And so they want to be delivered. So the reason why they do continue to sit under this teaching is because they feel like today is the day that I will be delivered. Today is the day I will be made free. I will be set free. I'm gonna be straight. Girls or whatever this case may be is gonna start looking attractive to me now. They feel like it because they have been conditioned to think that this is wrong and that they need to get right or whatever. So that is two things of how people can sit under that. I mean, and I've experienced that. I don't know why if you know the truth, I don't know why you would sit there unless that's your dad or your mom's church or whatever, or you just haven't found another church to go to. So I mean, there may be a lot of reasons, but I know those are the major two. Either you have become numb to it, or you really do think you need to be delivered from it.
But then so much times go by. If you're sitting there praying, deliver me, but it's not happening, does that kind of tell you that, I mean, it's not happening? And if you really believe in your heart and soul that you want to be heterosexual and deliver me, and then day after day after day or week after week, you're going to church and you're praying and whatever, and it's not happening, then
that's how they keep you, though. That's how they keep it, because they tell you that deliverance is not always instant. They tell you this may be something we're gonna have to pray through, or we're gonna have to fast through, or what is the word I'm thinking of? But anyway, it may be a process.
And then in the process of you waiting, and sometimes the person goes and kills himself,
which is sad.
Right.
Yeah.
So I have a question here. Does the Black church turn a blind eye to homosexuality in its leaders as long as it's not spoken? Example, your choir directors, music of ministries, ministers of music, your deacons and all of them stuff. As long as you don't actually say I'm gay or a homosexual or a lesbian, or you don't outwardly display it, what they think gay is, like femininity, men femininity and swishing and flamboyancy or something. So as long as you're not outwardly doing that or actually speaking it and saying that I'm gay or homosexual, lesbian or whatever, then they just turn a blind eye to it, because a lot of, not all, but a lot of their music directors and all of these people, they are gay. They might be down low, and certain people know and other people don't know. Yeah. And even the church probably knows too, but they just turn a blind eye to it because they're putting out that good music, and they're bringing in congregants so that, with that good music and or their preaching or whatever and stuff. So what do you think about
To me, it's like the army. It's like, don't ask, don't tell. A lot of them just, you don't ask. You see it, and I think they're afraid, because if they do ask and you tell them, then they feel like they have to do something. So either that's going to be to sit you down, or you need to confess in front of the church, which I think is awful, because that's not everybody's business. That's between, who you and God or whatever. But yeah, I do believe some of them turn a blind eye. And the reason why they're able to be at peace with their blind eye is because they never will ask you. I don't think most pastors or preachers or leaders in a church or whatever are even bold enough to just come out and ask you, hey, are you gay? Because if that's the case, then you got to go around and ask everybody anything that you suspect or anything that you assume. You got to start asking everybody or whatever. And this takes me back to the Juanita Bynum thing about the dancing or whatever. And I know, and I agree with you in a way that she seemed like she was attacking the LGBT community. But you could be a straight guy and just have be feminine, and you can be a straight lady and just have that's the way you grew up.
And they're not gay,
right?
They just have feminine qualities or masculine qualities. Lots of people are like that.
Yeah.
And you can put that on there and then next thing you know, people are turning against them and they're not even gay or whatever, and they're being stigmatized because you done spoke out of your mouth because they had on tight pants.
Right.
When the woman is sitting with her legs open, you're gonna just assume she is a lesbian. Yeah. That is so so misguided.
Should not be. And so your question, do they turn a blind? So for you to even come to me and assume, you're assuming, so I think a lot of them, they're going to turn a blind because I don't feel comfortable asking it, because I could be straight as, a line or whatever, but I have some, some feminine ways. So you feel comfortable coming to ask me or whatever? No, I think you're just going to turn a blind eye to it because you don't know. And then what if I'm not? And then I leave, and especially if I'm the biggest tithe, like you say, money. Okay, let's go to money. Say I'm the biggest tithe in your church, and you come to me and say, I think you gay or whatever. Then I'm gonna leave your church. So you done lost the biggest tither to your church because you assumed that I was gay. You should have just turned a blind eye to it.
She'd probably go running out of there with that big ass dress she had on. Come back,
right.
No, we need your money.
We need your money. I'm sorry.
We need your big donation. We'll get rid of this one down here, but we gonna keep you.
Right.
We'll overlook your.
Yeah.
It's like so. Yeah. It's like what they call to me cognitive dissonance.
Yeah.
Whatever, where they know that what the preacher or what the people were saying in church is wrong, is contradictory, to who they are and what they were born as or whatever. It's contradictory, but they still sit in there and take. So they'll justify it. They'll justify why it's okay for them to stay in that church and listen to that. But it also does take a toll on them as it keeps going and going and going, and then that's where you see a lot of the mental illness and stuff coming in, and the shame, where some have committed suicide, or harmed themselves in the name of the Lord, because of what they're preaching.
And I don't want to get in trouble, so I don't want to name any names, but the ones that I know that have confirmed, like you said, as far as musicians or whatever, they're the ones that write. Most of them write the praise and worship music. I can say this because he has said it. Tone, which he goes by a different name now, B. Slade. He one of the top vocalists. Like, I don't know if you know what's his name, Daryl Coley sung that song called When Sunday Comes. The only person that I've seen that almost like match him is Tone. That boy, he's a beast. He is a beast. Okay, yes, that range, and I mean, he's a vocal beast. I mean, and then there's others that I know, and I don't want to because I don't want to get in trouble. But yeah, most of our praise and worship music, most of our choir music, they come from people that are gay. So if you were to, expel all the gay, you wouldn't have no music really. And it's crazy how gay people have that connection, that those songs are sung all over the world. It's mostly in black churches and stuff like that, since we're talking about black or whatever. That to me, that would make me as a minister feel like, what is the connection you guys have that y'all can just pen these songs and they pierce your hearts and your souls like they do, but you're gay. Like what is that? Is it the sensitivity to it? I mean, what? I mean, so yeah.
So my next question is, this ties into that too. Why do some black gays, not just black gays, but white gays, every gay, a lot of gays, whatever, but yeah, we're talking about black. Why do some black gays hide or disguise their relationships from the church? So just because a lot, there's a lot of guys and females in the church that do have partners. Yeah. They have, or they're dating, or they're in a relationship, but they don't let the church know that that's their partner. They can be living together and everything, but when they go, sometimes they don't even take their partner to church or around church people. Sometimes it's if they do, this is my friend and not my boyfriend or my partner. Now they can have a wife, just say they were married before, or they, or they dated women, or they dated women, or they dated, or they were married, and they would, when they're dating the girl, whatever, they will say, they'll take them to church, and they'll introduce them. This is my fiance. This is my girlfriend, or we're dating. This is this is my fiance, whatever. And then once they get married, this is my wife. Right. But they won't do that same thing with a guy that they're with. Now, not all, but I seem to think most of them do that when they'll say, well, this is my friend. Right. And then, or you can go with them, or whatever. And then they're totally don't introduce you to anybody. They turn their back on you, kind of sit, don't not with you or kind of away from you, because they don't want nobody to think that you're with them, and then because then somebody might think that they are gay, or whatever. So they just kind of you're really kind of shunned. But then once you're away from church and you're back home, then you're my man. I love you, and we'll go. Let's go hang out. Let's go do this or whatever. But not around the church people. What do you think about? I mean, can a relationship really survive that? I know maybe some do, but I think most end up breaking up. Not for that specific reason, for a lot of other reasons, but that's included in it too, because it's a hard thing to swallow, to know that you're not acknowledged as a partner, a boyfriend, or a husband, or whatever.
So I'll start with the relationship part first. So if I'm in a relationship with you, and I feel, and we both,
because we've had this discussion,
we have, and I feel like we both are spiritual, and we want to worship together. We want to attend a worship service together. I feel like at this point we need to find a church that we both can go to if that relationship is something that you really want, and you want it to grow in this particular area or whatever. Because there's a lot of areas that you have your work life, your social life, your church life, whatever. So we wanted to grow in this area. Maybe we need to find somewhere where we can worship together freely. So to go back to this original question, it's a lot here, Alvin. So one thing is, first of all, churches believe that gay is simple. So I'm not going to go in a church flaunting my sin. I'm not going to do that. That's one thing. Another thing is, so say you're coming to my church, you're my boyfriend, you come to my church. I've been to this church a long time. I have relationships in this church. probably my mom and dad go to this church. My grandmother probably went to this church. I genuinely have a love for these people, and they have a love for me. I'm not about to fuck this up by saying, okay, here's my boyfriend, because there's a fear that they're going to, shun me. They're going to expel me. I'm not about to do that. So you're my friend. You coming in here as my friend, or or
you ain't coming at all,
or you're my coworker, whatever. So I'm gonna do that.
So you would fuck up your relationship
if the part. See, something it depends on the partner, because some partners know what they're getting into. I know how the church is. I already know I can't go in here holding your hand. Some already know that. But then you do have the few that are like, well, why is this place any different than any other place we go to? But most, especially if they're from Texas, they are, they're in the Bible Belt. They know we can't just go in here, rainbow and whatever. We're gonna have to, tip it down or whatever, because we know it's not accepted here. But yeah, back in the day, those were my two things. I already knew that this church is considered as a sin. And I already knew that I had a relationship with these people. I don't want to mess that up. And at the time, there were no gay churches. Now there are. So let's go find us a nice gay church if we can.
And there's also churches that aren't what you call quote gay. They're really heterosexual, but they're affirming.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that would be my.
What do you think about that, Larry?
Oh yeah.
You have any thought on that?
Honestly, that part of religion is not going to change, just like the part of white folks is not going to change.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at both sides, we talk about the world is changing. Why white folks still racist?
Mm-hmm.
The world is changing. Why black folks still prejudice against homosexuality in church?
Mm-hmm.
It's evil.
Yeah.
And a lot of times we find ourselves, questioning stuff and judging things about other people and forget about how we're judging on our people.
Right.
And 100% correct.
I think that's something that the church needs to really identify. Why they can get up and talk about racism in the world, but they can't talk about the discrimination in the church.
Right.
So one doesn't change without the other.
Right.
I can agree with that.
Okay.
Good point. That's really good. Yeah.
And goes back to, you're harping on the homosexuality, but you're overlooking the infidelity, the fornication.
Yeah.
60-70% of people I don't know about white churches, but I know in black churches, about 60 to 70% of them are unmarried, and they're still having sex. Little kids are running around, and their parents aren't married. There's there's drug abuse,
right?
There's physical abuse
right.
going on, all type of stuff. They go, we're gonna counsel you, or whatever.
Yeah.
Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. But they, they're in jail for murder. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But then but you don't harp on that. You harp on the homosexuality.
Right.
So yeah,
and the reason I think the reason why a lot of them really because I love it. I was going to say because they feel like it's a choice that we've made, but I mean that's no different than the person that chose to sleep with somebody, or the person that chose to do drugs or whatever. But for some, I was going to say it's because they think we can make another choice, but. I mean, all sin. I mean, if if whatever you consider sin, it's a choice. Whatever. So yeah, I don't know. I think people fear what they don't understand. I mean, I remember back in the day, they used to say, well, even nature shows you that two men can't be with two men and two women can't be with because you can't, reproduce or whatever. But now nature is showing you that you can have animals of the same sex and they have sex or reproduction comes from that.
Even animals that don't even need to have sex with an actual animal.
And they do.
Yes.
Yeah.
snails.
Right. So you can't.
There's lots of snails are like hermaphrodites. You know, they have both sexes. There's lots of animals that have both sexes. There are people who are born with both sexes.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So, you know, and then they
And who made them?
Right. And who made
God made.
Right.
So you saying God made a mistake?
Right. And then and the question, remember when I was talking to you, it was like, well, if God was so against homosexuality, then why are we all still here? If you didn't like it, it's such an abomination. Why are we all? You can destroy it if you wanted to. You know what I'm saying? You could have got rid of it,
Right?
Just like whatever else that you wanted to get rid of.
Yeah.
Why are we still here if it was such an abomination?
Right.
But anyway, so that when you were talking about choice, you know, and I have in here, if gay is a choice, wouldn't straight be a choice?
Right.
You know, I mean, that means you had to choose. That means you had to choose to be straight.
Right. Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if you're saying gay is a choice, it's not a choice to me. It's
not a choice.
Gay, bi, whatever you are. It's to me the way you're born. Okay.
They made us feel like it was a choice, but
Right.
it's not.
And then, if homosexuality is sin, wouldn't heterosexuality be a sin? Because you're choosing to have sex, you know, and that's nobody's forcing you. But if ain't nobody forcing you, that means you're choosing to have sex, and you're having it outside of marriage too. But
Right.
a lot of people have it outside of marriage before they even get married, and a lot of them say tell the church that they're a virgin or whatever, or they've never had sex and they have, you know, or whatever. But yeah, you know, if gay is a choice, wouldn't straight be a choice?
Right. And I have an issue with people that, you know, want to go take you back to Genesis and they want to say, you know, Adam and Eve. Okay, let's dissect this. So Adam and Eve came from God, right? So, you know, if we're gonna, you know, do the Bible, whatever. So if this woman and this man, well, the man first, a second. If they came from right, if they came from God, wouldn't that make them brother and sister? Okay, so then who said that they ever got married? Did we ever see a marriage? Right? Did we ever see a marriage?
If you believe in the creation theory, which is
right,
I don't know how you do that, but
right.
If you believe in the creation theory, it was just those two. And there was no other anything anywhere else
until they start having kids.
But they only had. But according to the body, that's how you know that the stuff is not written correctly.
Right,
there was stuff omitted, stuff was put in, you know, stuff to make you so you can believe this or whatever. Because if it was just those two,
right? And
then she only had 2 sons. That means there's no women nowhere. There's nothing. That means they had to sleep with their mother in order to make more kids. But they don't say anything.
Oh my God!
Right? And then. Which would be incest. But Cain killed Abel.
He did.
Right? So if he killed Abel, that just leaves Cain, his mother, and his father.
Yeah.
Right. But here's the thing. When you look back at history, if it takes 9 months to have a baby, and there was all type of disease and famine and all type of stuff back there, a lot of kids didn't even make it to being born. You know, the woman didn't make it. She didn't have no medical doctor back there.
Right.
You know, whatever.
Right.
So you know what I'm saying? So then if it takes that long to have a baby, you know, some of them gonna die, you know, ain't even gonna make it out your womb. You may have died.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Well, in order to populate this earth the way that it is, there's no way, according to the text of what they have in the King James Version of the Bible. We know it's further back, but what they have in there, according to that, in this short time span, what is it, about 10,000 years now? You cannot populate 1 billion people on this earth from just 2 people. And it takes 8 months. Somebody just
we have like 3 people at one time list online with us. So thank you guys for tuning in.
But there's no way that you can populate the earth like that at the death rate that we have. And babies not surviving, you know. You see what I'm saying? There's no way you can do that. And we're not we're not wildebeests where there was 1,000 of them already there, and then each one of them is having babies, and all of them don't get survive, and they get eaten. You know what I'm saying? Right. And they can populate and have millions of stuff in that time, but we're not wildebeest. Right. Our bodies don't work like that. Right. Where you know what I'm saying?
So I never
understand that. Yes, I believe that creation theory.
Yes, I never like when people want to take you back. Oh, it was Adam and Eve and not Steve, Adam and Steve or whatever. When to me, Adam and Eve were brother and sister. So it's like that story, whatever. But
we know way
right. So the way they explain that, as far as all the other people, is they were saying like this story that we're reading is from the Jewish people. There's other people, whatever. And I'm like, well, when are they going to be mentioned? But yeah, that's how they would explain how other nations and tribes were there. Is that there were other stuff going on, but this particular people, this is their story or whatever. So I'm just like, oh, okay, whatever. But yeah.
So what do you think about the gay preachers when they're in there preaching against homosexuality, and the deacons and stuff? They're preaching against homosexuality, and some of them are homosexual or lesbian, but they're preaching against it. Do you think that's shame? Do they have like internalized homophobia and shame, or you think a lot of them do it because they know they can make money off of it, like the prosperity gospel? Say whatever and throw it out there, and see what sticks, so we can make more money.
I mean, and I know. So you saying the money again, prosperity gospel, which that is a thing. It really is. But I want to say that's something. The concept of prosperity gospel and making money and stuff like that it's kind of new in a way. But churches always have to make money. However, this was going on way before, prosperity gospel was even thought of. People are brought up a certain way that says this is wrong. So no matter what lifestyle they choose, they're always going to teach what that word, because they will be drugged out of the church. You're not going to be a pastor and you're going to skip over certain. Yeah. We're gonna drag you out. You cannot. So even though this is the lifestyle I chose, I'm never, if I'm in this particular church, because he could go to start his own gay church, but evidently this is a gay pastor, a gay preacher that is in a church that believes that this is wrong. So he's gonna stay in, in that church's bylaws or whatever. He's not gonna go outside of that or whatever. And yeah, it probably has something to do with, you are ashamed. And you haven't settled within your own self, who you are, or what have you. So yeah,
those preachers who brought up like that, preaching is gay. Sometimes they feel like they haven't had a choice. Mm-hmm. They were raised to believe that they were going to always be a preacher. Mm-hmm. They suppress that feeling, let that feeling just come out, and now they're in they're split between how they feel and what they're obligated to preach in front of the church. Right. But that's not going to change because, it's just like a person who's a teacher and he's attracted to young people. A molester who's a teacher and has kids. They're in these positions, right? But they have these feelings that they just can't get rid of. Right. Just because you're in those positions, don't mean those feelings will go away. Yeah. And then you act on them and bam. Right. But I personally believe it's just it was where he was conditioned. Yeah, and exactly. They're just and it's pressure, like I said, from the church. Yeah. You know what's going to hype the church up when you talk about it. And if you veer away from those subjects, then people start questioning why you're not preaching like, are you gay? Right. And actually, you like, oh no, I'm going to hit this conversation, but they have to come hit it. Right. So.
Now, when the money comes in too is where this is a big source of your income, or this may be your only income. Yeah, I'm not about to preach something different than what these people believe because I'm gonna lose my income. So yeah, I have to
So it really ain't about God. It's really about my pocket.
It is.
And my feeling.
It is. Musicians the same way. Mm-hmm. Musicians, people don't have the love of music anymore. They just play for the check. Mm-hmm. I played my whole life in church without a paycheck. But when I was finally introduced to playing for money, my level of respect as a musician never changed.
Right.
So I was making up to $900 a Sunday, but still loyal as if I was not getting paid.
Right.
You know, but these new musicians that brought up to believe this is a paycheck. Same with everything else.
Yeah.
Pastors too. They look at it as an scapegoat for a way of life.
Yeah.
That's true.
So then, let's talk about, the freedom of speech in church, since we, in the United States, freedom of speech, So what do you think about, when they're preaching against this, does what they're preaching, not just homosexuality, but a lot of the stuff that they preach, does it cause harm? We know it causes harm, but should they be held accountable or anything when something happens because they done preached something and somebody has done harm to themselves or went out and done harm to other people because of what they preach?
That's why churches are called them.
Right. That's for taxes.
That's for taxes.
I know, but that's a separation.
There's a separation of church and state.
From the church
And state.
and
Right.
state.
Yeah.
But then also, if you think about it, if you're on payroll, then those who work for the church that's on payroll, then now they're treated. The church is obligated to treat them like any other type of affiliation.
Right.
So you say freedom of speech in church. I mean, the
way churches are ran, like, so I grew up Baptist, and so when you're a part of a Baptist church, I'm not Baptist anymore, I'm not against it, but when you're a part of a Baptist church, there is what is it, like a board. Most time it's the deacons or whatever, and the deacons vote who's gonna pastor or whatever. So they can put you in, they can put you out. So if you start deterring, chairman, like there's a board, and they can, and that's why a lot of pastors now, these new pastors, they call them non-denominational now. They don't want to be a part of a denomination because now I have freedom.
Yeah.
But the ones that are like a part of denominations like Baptist, blah, 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 you are tied into what we believe or whatever. And if you deter from that, we can vote you out. But if you are the CEO of this church, you can say you can do whatever you want to. Right, exactly. That's why they call non-denominational. So
another loophole in the church.
Another loophole. So when you talk about freedom of speech, there's so much freedom you can have when you're a part of a denomination, because we've already set what is going to be said or whatever. And some of them are like, okay, so when you talk about Baptists, so there's so many different Baptists. You have the so there's the old school Baptists, I can't think of their name. You have Missionary Baptist.
Primitive Baptist Church.
What's the one
Macedonian Baptist Church.
Full Gospel Baptist. Now, Full Gospel, they're one of the ones that are really coming out of a lot of stuff because
they're not Full Gospel is called Baptist anymore. I think they just called
Full Gospel. They dropped the Baptist. Okay, yeah.
I could be wrong, but
I think they're still called Full Gospel Baptist something, but it's a big old thing now. But I know they're one of the ones that have really started to go out, because at one time Baptists didn't believe in speaking in tongues, they didn't believe in healing or whatever. So they started to break off. So one day, maybe like we probably dead and gone, but one day they may start to accept, gays and different,
no, it's called Full Gospel Holy Temple.
Was it? No, that's a different one. I'm talking. Look at the one that
the big church.
No,
he's 20.
No, that's not Tony Evans. That's Herman Mary.
No, Herman Mary. Oh,
that's
okay.
What
You didn't about Friendship West. Okay.
No. Well, I'm gonna tell you.
Okay. Full Gospel is Mary. Yeah, Pastor Mary.
Full Gospel Holy Temple. Yeah. That's not what I'm thinking about. I'm talking about Full Gospel. Full the Baptist one. So look up. What's the man that sings? PJ Morton, his daddy. Look up Reverend Morton out of Louisiana. He's part of a Full Gospel thing or whatever. Full Gospel Baptist is what I mean. So anyway,
y'all know y'all church stuff, don't you?
Yeah, we were
wrapped up in it.
We were born and raised there. Yeah. So yeah.
So why do you think most African Americans believed in the King James Bible when it was not in our African roots and belief system? And they used it, and it was used against us to justify slavery. So why do you think so many of us still believe in that King James? Because that's what we read in the United States, the King James version of the Bible.
It's supposed to be like the best seller, like the number one book or whatever.
If you know the history for King James, King James was similar to something who we would call like a narcissist. He
said a narcissist?
He wanted control,
right.
He wanted power.
Right.
And he wanted to have to say so over anything. I learned this in doctrine school.
Yeah.
And he was insane.
Yeah, and you can say that.
And he was gay.
I don't know about that.
They say he was.
But he wanted power and control. One thing he didn't have power over was the church. And so and the scrolls he didn't have power over. So he actually sent out spies to steal the scrolls from the church. And they did. And they tried to what is it called when you try to break the language so that you can translate it? What is it called? So they want to translate it. They wanted to translate the scrolls. You know, because they didn't understand what it meant. So we don't know what they wrote.
Right.
And it was
we're still reading off the King James Bible.
And we're reading translation after translation after translation after translation
from humans,
right?
Who a lot of them were semi-illiterate themselves, who didn't even know what they were writing. Jesus was already called, you know what I'm saying? And they were trying to translate what this one said, that one said, and then adding stuff. Or they didn't know Hebrew. They didn't know. And
then they went into Roman, so then they had to try to translate it from Hebrew to Greek. So you lost translation.
You lost translation with all of them doing that. So
one thing I know is that I have a relationship with God.
Yeah.
And that's where a lot of the and I don't want to say homosexual and gays and all that. I just want to say our community. That's why our community gets confused in church, because they really haven't created their own relationship with God.
Right.
Once they create their own relationship with God, then they can find the peace that they need.
Because they're listening to what the preacher is preaching and telling them, and they're believing that relationship instead of what their own personal relationship. Good.
That's their own. The only type of Bible they get is when they go to church, and so they just be conditioned to wake up every Sunday, sing in the choir, and hear what the pastor said. But they never took the time out to find and create their own relationship of their own.
Right.
And you can't do that just because you just praying. You still have to get in that Bible and study.
And use other sources.
One truth about the Bible, it says study to show thyself approved.
Right.
You have to do that. That's with anything.
Right.
If you want to know anything in life, if you want to get anywhere in the world, career-wise, you have to study.
You do.
And studying is not getting up, listening to a pastor preach every Sunday. Studying is getting what you need.
Right.
And that's why a lot of people fail.
And there's
when you see a lot of people in our community that are strong in the sense that they have a personal relationship with God and they can accept their lifestyle, is because they study.
Right.
And we have a lot of pastors in the Black community, not a lot, but there's pastors in the Black community who, when you talk about studying, who have never even been to seminary, haven't even been to anything. They've just been ordained by somebody who said, or they ordained themselves and said, I'm gonna be a preacher, or
dad died, so then you take over
or something. It's not a lot, but they're still out there. Heretics.
There's too many pieces to take in and out of the Bible. Based off of what Juanita Bynum said, Kim Burrell, they're taking their piece. You need to go in the Bible and take your piece
for your own self.
Yeah. What they take for themselves. Does that make them wrong? I don't know. I'm not judging them. But I don't get upset by it because I'm already at peace.
Right.
I took it. I've got my piece on the Bible where I'm at peace.
Right. And when I saw the videos, I was telling Alvin this too. It's like, it's not that it doesn't affect me or whatever, but it's like I know who I am, but but Alvin is empath, and I like that about him. what his thing was, what about the people that don't know? This is harming them. And I'm like, yeah, you're right, or whatever. And not that I don't think about that, but that's not the first thing I think about. I think about, girl, I'm not listening to you or whatever. You know what I mean? But at the same time, you're right. What about the people that don't know? Because when we talk about the King James, if there's more than 66 books of the Bible, King James, they chose which books were going to be in the Bible, and it was to benefit them. If it said anything about master, if it said anything about, the slavery thing or whatever, they put that in there because it was going to benefit them.
There's so many writings and pieces of that you don't even know because they found this, but they didn't find this that goes with it.
Right.
Some of it they have whole scripts of. Some of it they just have a little piece. They got to try to interpret it, to try to make sense, or to use it to control, or they'll do, put this piece together and it don't really even go together.
And the reason why they do that is because there's a scripture that says, out of the mouth of two or more witnesses. Mm-hmm. So if I find this, I need to find another one that's going to agree with it, because people are going to want to know. They're going to want to know what backs this up. I can't just take this one thing. And a lot of stuff that, like the Gospel of Thomas, they thought that was weird because it's like, we ain't never heard nothing like this before. Mm-hmm. So they said this is not going to be in the Bible. Mm-hmm. And then, a lot of the other stuff, because they wanted to form it to where it all agreed. But even what they put together, that stuff don't agree. It's some of it. You can make the Bible say whatever you want it to say to prove your point.
Right. And then just like you might read something and you interpret it your way, I might read it and interpret it my way.
Exactly.
And if you tell this person that and they agree with it, then all of a sudden they can use what I say and it can be wrong and use it to harm somebody else or to help somebody else.
Exactly.
Or whatever. So anyway, but
and I do believe of not just using the Bible when it comes to use other sources.
Right.
I mean, even when you go to school, you just don't learn from one book. You learn from other books and stuff like that. And I think when people do that, that's how we are able to realize this is a bunch of bull. Because we were able to go and see where, okay, no, y'all piece this together and y'all exclude. And homosexuality wasn't even in the Bible till 1940, 1960. It wasn't even a word. It made no sense back then.
There's a lot of stuff we do now that doesn't even translate.
It made no sense.
Nothing to do, but we take it and turn it to what we want it to be. But a lot of the stuff that we believe in the Bible or whatever stuff, it had no meaning and no context for it. And for us now, a lot of it was written for
pedophiles,
Jewish law, and stuff, like that, and not for the rest of whatever and stuff,
So the word they took to mean homosexual, that was for people that were messing with little boys and little girls, and so they tried to make this it was same. They tried to say that was, and it makes homosexuality look bad. But if it was done in this time, we're talking about two people that know what they want. They're in a loving relationship. The Bible doesn't speak about that. It's talking about people that are pedophiles or male prostitutes. There were people in the palace that had prostitutes. They would sleep with men.
That's what they call reprobated minds. People who are trying to go into reprobated minds.
Mm-hmm.
And people have taken things out of context, like you said in the Bible. But God, the Bible also says, He says, "I draw thee with love and kindness." And that's where they dropped the ball when they were preaching. That message was not with love and kindness
at all.
It was like a bulldog snapping.
Mm-hmm.
And Jesus never preached like that.
Never.
Jesus never preached like that. And so when you look, and the Bible said they will come in wolves will come in sheep's clothing. And if you think about it, also there are women who have 90% of women in the church. So the message that they're preaching is for the women. Right. And who knows what all those women are coming and telling it. Mm-hmm. They're probably hearing complaints about their husbands sleeping with other men. Right. I don't know. I'm just saying. Yeah. But what I was saying, what I was saying was love and kindness. Mm-hmm. Jesus preached with love and kindness. Yeah. And that's the way we should be. The greatest of them is love.
The greatest.
That's right. The greatest is love. And the truth of the matter is, if you don't see that in the message, it's not God.
Right.
If it's not love, It's not God.
Right.
And so what you're saying is, I have here, it says, Jesus never spoke on homosexuality in any of his teachings. Jesus spoke on many sins, but his harshest criticism went to the religious leaders and money changers, i.e. the Pharisees and heretics and stuff like that.
His messages went to the Juanita Bynum,
Burrell, and all the other ones out there like.
Oh, I wonder. So you remember the one I sent you about the woman that you said, did she just say something or whatever? I think her name Frances Kelly. You know Frances Kelly? She's a coach. There's the one clip. I wish I could have found that clip. You know the clip what she said? I'm sick of these sissies.
Yes,
I wish I would have found that. But baby,
Go ahead. Let me see if I can find it real quick. What's her name?
Frances Kelly. Mother Frances Kelly. She said, I'm sick of these sissies. But I don't think, Look,
we almost done.
I told him to set a timer. But anyway, don't interrupt our show like that. But we're glad you're here, Larry. You getting some good points. But what we're talking about? So Jesus,
What did she
say?
say?
He said with the tax collectors at that day and time, they were considered sinners or whatever. I'm sick of these sissies. But yeah, he didn't talk about sin. So it was a problem. And there was a guy that was sick, and he healed. They don't call him out on it. You ain't supposed to heal nobody else. Love. Regardless of the laws that we have set. Because he said, so there are these 10 commandments, thou shalt not, thou shalt not, thou shalt not. He summed them up in 2. Anyone, if you don't meet them where they are and you use love to draw them, because okay, we're back. Thank you.
Sorry, y'all.
Yeah,
I tried to pull up what you call her,
Mother Frances Kelly.
I tried to pull her up, but it locked up my.
We'll put it in the comments if we can find it. But there's one clip where she's preaching and she just coming against the homosexual. She's like, I'm sick of sissies. And I mean, and she's the same. I mean, she's old. She's an older woman. She may be dead, but she's in the Church of God of Christ. And I mean, she will always go hard on the gays, baby. But love is the way.
All right. So we're almost finished here. And I said, are Christians really followers of Jesus Christ? It's just a statement, basically. I put it in as a question, but it's really basically a question, just so people can think. You say you're a follower of Jesus Christ. Are you really, with all this hate and stuff that you spew out of your mouth that can cause harm and stuff? Are you really a Christian? Because that doesn't sound like that was Jesus.
Exactly. Exactly.
But I don't know. But you can type your comments and leave them in the thing.
Yeah, Jesus was kind, and he was able to relate to everybody, even the girl, the woman at the well. They were like, do you know she's a prostitute? You're not supposed to be seen with her. But it was ordained for them to meet at the time because he was able to share a revelation with her, and it confirmed what she had been hearing all her life. and because of that, she was, she was enlightened or whatever. But yeah, Jesus was not concerned with all that.
Do you think the scriptures are outdated for our time now? Or I mean, I think you can still get some meaning out of them, but some stuff needs to be.
I mean, you know, a book that was written or whatever years it's.
I don't think nothing should ever be taken away from.
Yeah,
Nothing
nothing.
taken away from the original of it.
But you don't have all the originals.
And if you take away from what is the
foundation, the core.
The foundation of the core of it, then the foundation is really what holds it up. It's just like with anything.
But it's been written over centuries. It's not written just from back when. When it's been just written and rewritten.
But it depends on what your core foundation is. So if our core foundation is love, then that should be everything that comes across. Yeah.
You have to have the foundation to understand why we get to where we are. The same way with our Black history.
Mm-hmm.
Are we gonna just swipe it out?
Mm-hmm.
No. We still want everyone to know the history, the trauma, what we went through. It's the same with the Bible. Don't take it out.
So when I hear
don't
this
take
question,
anything out, even if it's incorrect.
Don't take it out. Don't take it out. If you think about anything like in life, even the things
I don't mean take it out like when you can't go back and see it or read it or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just saying, should the context be updated to our time to reflect, our lives in this, in this century, and the stuff applied to us, or whatever, and not, you can just like they did it, because that's what they've done. They've updated it over the century by adding and taking and writing stuff that's not even correct to translate something.
Mine would be subjective and mine would be no. I get where you're coming from.
Because Paul and John's are, some of the stuff they're saying the same, but some of it is totally different, even though they done took one word from, and he changed it to mean this, because he didn't know what it meant. And the other one might have known, and they put it in a different language, then it translated into something else again. Then, all they're doing is just translating and putting stuff in the way they think it might, what it means.
So I'll give an example. So to go with what you're saying, and it's basically your understanding and really delving in what it meant. So there is Paul. He said that women should be silent and that, women shouldn't teach or whatever. But we know that can't be love, because women are men are no smarter than women or whatever.
You got to go back to the Bible to your study, because there was during the time and place.
Right.
Things were happening. That's one of the reasons why I was said.
Right.
That's why I was taking out of content.
Right. He was saying today. Exactly.
But that was just during that particular time.
So you could take that out, and the Bible still can go on and go on and go on. So I mean, I get what you're saying. I get what both of you are saying. So you can take that out, because no one is. Well, there are some that will not let women preach.
Who's not wearing sweaters? It's cold in Dallas right now. Who is not wearing sweaters?
Yeah, because there is a commandment that says you can't intertwine the fabrics, cotton. Yeah,
and you
can't. Yeah, right, exactly.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. It's so much. It's just out. And it was like
613.
It's none of this Christian. That's the Muslim Bible.
It's in our Bible.
It's in the Christian.
It's in the King James Bible.
It's in there, but it doesn't apply.
It doesn't apply.
It talks about being unclean.
Yeah, that's the thing. So if God said it's not clean,
because there was no refrigerators or anything to keep it from spoiling. They didn't have any stuff to.
It was sanitary. It's a sanitary.
It was for the Jewish. Jewish faith,
and it's wisdom, because still today we need to make sure that our stuff is fresh and whatever. So that's something that Oh no. Now when people try to put you in hell or heaven, then yeah, they totally off of it.
Well,
but there are some that
in those commandments, though, even we look at the commandments where it just says, you know, thou shalt not steal. But inside of that commandment, there's other the other stuff that goes with it.
There was 600 and some laws. It wasn't just 10
to tell you why
it was 600 and some
why
laws.
you didn't, you know, to do this
Right.
or whatever. So
because you wanted to do certain stuff on her period.
right, it's all
I mean, it's
and they could be stoned. They were exiled.
You could kill your kids.
Right. They were exiled for if they crossed their linen or mixed their linen, they could have been out of that faith, not around the rest of the world,
Right. Yeah.
but just, you know, but with the Jewish
Yeah.
Israelites or whatever, those were their commandments. So they could be pushed out of that.
Yeah.
What is it, 30, 40 years or something of wandering around in the wilderness, and they might have been pushed out of there because they didn't follow those. But it wasn't for anybody else. You know, so and the world has changed and everything now. So, you know, we are what we are now. It does not even apply. It didn't apply to us then because we were not
Right.
we weren't back there, but we were not Israelites. So you know what I'm saying? But
what I would say to you to your question is I wouldn't necessarily take anything away. I would get an understanding of what's in there. And then I will also realize that we're going to have new things that come up. Like we're in 2024, right? There are certain things that the Bible is not going to cover per se in our time. So you're going to have, like you said before, you're going to have that personal relationship, you know, between you and your divinity, you know, whatever that may be for our audience or whatever. Because you can't go to the Bible and say, is it all right for me to Google? And, you know, because Google wasn't there. Or, you know, is it all right for me to, you know, whatever. Because it's not in the Bible. But, you know, there probably is somewhere where it gives you wisdom on those issues. Like there's money scriptures. Like they said, there's scriptures almost for everything. Right. However, you have to have an understanding. And you have to, you know, just make sure it's the right thing for you. Or what have you.
Do you think a lot of gay people, or a lot of LGBT people plus are leaving the church, or do you think it's still a lot there? Do you think they're leaving it because of the way they're being persecuted and talked about, or you think we just still stay?
I think it's kind of because you know
we like to be
because a lot of people are gonna
just like to be
well, first of all, we're spiritual regardless. So something in you knows that, you know, there's a higher power or whatever. However you use that.
Unless you're atheist.
Yeah, unless you're atheist or whatever. But you're still believing in something. You know, you still have a belief in something. But, you know, it depends on that person, how you want to commune in that whole, you know, whatever. Because some people feel like, you know, I have to go to a building. Some people feel like I can do this at home. Some people feel like I can do it out in nature or whatever. So I think something about us knows that there is a spiritual side to us, and there's a side to us that yearns for that, you know, that higher power or whatever. So I think people are always going to have a place for that. But you have to know, you have to be where you're respected. And some people are going to stay in those places and be disrespected because that's all they know, or, you know, they refuse because they, like I said, they feel like they're going to be delivered. And then you have some people that are going to go out and find a place where they can still get that spiritual stuff, but be accepted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you believe, I believe I was born, you know, gay,
Yeah.
right? But do you believe being born homosexual is problematic to God? Do you think we can pray away the gay? You think we're problematic to God? I don't think so. Because if it was, he would have got rid of us. He or she, whatever, would have got rid of us a long time ago. If you didn't want us here, why are we still here?
Right.
Goes back to my question. But huh? Oh,
Right.
you did?
It didn't
I
work.
tried it. I fasted. I vomited on the floor. I didn't eat for 30 days. I did all that.
Mm-hmm.
And it never went away. And then
You got married.
I got married, but then, you know, one of the scriptures, I may not quote it right, so I'm paraphrasing, where Paul talks about a thorn in his flesh.
Mm-hmm.
And God never removed that thorn in his flesh. Because had that thorn been removed, he would have been perfect. And there's no such thing as
It's perfection,
man,
right?
So, that point, even that time in my life, everything I was doing was right. The only thing I was dealing with was homosexuality.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, okay, God, just remove that, but he wouldn't remove it. And even though I heard preachers preach about that particular scripture, the light never came on until, like I said, I studied it for myself, and God told me, "You are who I created you."
Right. There's no deliverance from who you are. You can't be delivered from who you are. The people that have said they've been delivered, I have an issue with that because most of them will either they're gonna say God did it or they're gonna say I came out. But most of them are gonna say I came out. They would never say God did it because God didn't do it.
Right, because God ain't delivering.
Right, He ain't delivering you from who you are.
He made you to be a homosexual, and you're being your false self if you're not being who you are. If you're trying to be straight,
That's what we say.
Then you're not living up to what God created you to be.
Right.
And to me,
I was up in the church testifying, not testifying, just testifying that I've been delivered. Because one of the things that I believe in is speak things that's not as though they were.
Right.
And even though I was following the path of deliverance, that core was still there, and it never left. So I kept testifying deliverance.
And you thought you were being truthful.
Yeah.
You said
there are a lot of people like that, and some who are just in that moment.
You eat up all my M&Ms. I keep seeing that bag, his head going down in that bag.
Just testifying like that. They just call up in that moment.
They call up in the moment.
It's not a bad thing. They just call up in the moment.
Yeah.
Okay. We're almost through here. We're really down to the wire here. What do we got here? Do you think LGBT folks need to temporarily leave the church in order to learn how to love and accept themselves first, and then relearn how to love God and the church? You think you need to leave the church first in order, and then maybe come back to it after you love yourself and accept yourself, and then relearn how to love God?
Different strokes for different folks.
Yeah, it depends. I think a lot of people need to, me personally, I know I'm probably gonna get hate mail or whatever, but I think a lot of people need to just take a break from the Bible itself and find out your relationship outside of the Bible, because the Bible is tricky. Like if you're not really a studier of the word, like you say, study to show you thyself approved. If you're not willing to really study, leave it alone for now. And maybe come back to it later, but build that, because it can be tricky if you go in there, because a lot of people take it literally or whatever. That's how the master, the white man, was able to trick the slave, because the Bible, it says obey your master and blah blah blah, and they felt like, well, we better obey, because they used that to get them to stay in that mindset that we're the slave or whatever. So yeah.
So on this right here, because we're going to end right here, but and I'll put in a link where you can go to where I got this information from, like why do most Americans believe in the King James Bible when it was not in our African roots and belief system, and then it was also used to justify slavery.
Mm-hmm.
So in this article that I had read, it described it perfectly to me why we are so invested still in this King James version of the Bible. So I'm just going to put this link right. I'm going to put this up here, and it's scrolling across the bottom on our little ticker there, and then there it goes right there, and it's on NPR.
Okay, cool. Thank you, Alan.
And then we might revisit this another time. We got a lot of stuff that we're going to come back and revisit, so we don't go too far over. We done already went over our time, but so we don't go too far over. We'll come
Larry,
back
don't leave.
stuff and then revisit it later. We might have a part 2, part 3, or something, because these discussions are kind of deep sometimes.
They are,
and we'll try to get some professionals on,
right,
on our show to enlighten us or to help us understand some of this also.
Yeah.
But thanks for joining us. And
And so my
on tit for tat, and then, well, I got Charles has some final thoughts here. So let him go through his final thoughts. And then always.
I always have my final thoughts because I always want to, leave you with something. So, and this is something that I admire Alvin on. And, I didn't learn this until later in life because I was one of those that, took whatever the preacher said or whatever. And so my story, remember I told you I had a story about Juanita Bynum? So my story is, I was just like any other church person that, would look at these TV preachers or whatever. And I thought she was very charismatic and blah, blah, blah. So I listened to her, whatever. And I was at an event. I went with my mom. We went to an event somewhere. It was in Dallas or whatever. And she was there. And at the end of the service, she just started pointing out people that I guess God was showing her or whatever. I was just praising, worshiping, whatever. And she chose me. I was one of the people she chose. So I went up to her. And if you know anything about Juanita Bynum, she always gonna have either these prayer napkins or a prayer shawl or whatever. Yeah, well, she didn't sell it, but she might have, whatever. But yeah, she do sell like whatever. Yeah. So she gave me her, I guess all these little napkins she put together or something. She gave it to me and she put it over me. And if I did, it's because I was trained to or whatever. But yeah, because they train you to do that. It's like I ain't felt nothing. I just fell down because that's what I'm expected to do. But yeah, when I must have fell down because when I got up, I heard, I want you to go. This is the reason why I went to Bible school. I want you to go to school, and I felt like the voice or whatever I was hearing within was telling me, I don't want you to be like this. I want you to actually go to school and learn or whatever. So from there, from that moment, I started looking for Bible schools or whatever. But anyway, I said all that to say that I like you when you said that you've always asked questions. And so that's what I want to leave you guys with, to always ask questions. Don't just take what a preacher says. Go do your own research. Get the Bible verse and go home and do your study yourself or whatever, because there might be a different revelation that you may get because the same Holy Spirit is in you, So ask questions. Don't ever just take, what someone says. And then like Larry said, I think we all said, a lot of this stuff is just repeat from what we said. Develop a relationship on your own with the divine yourself, God, whatever you call your divinity. And then I think it's good that if you find a group that kind of aligns. I mean, most times that's why you join a church. You join a church because you have like-minded, you have like beliefs or whatever. So if your beliefs are changing, or if you feel like, I want to go to a church that will affirm me, all of me or who I am, then find a group, find a church that aligns with that. And then last but not least, which I kind of already said, is do your own research and study. Don't just take, what you hear on TV, because I don't even listen to TV preachers no more. Or, I'm so past that. Or, even your own local pastor, do your own research and study. So, hopefully, something we've said has helped you or even broadened your knowledge of the church and how they try to kind of like diminish us and make us feel like we're the bad people and we need all this deliverance when nothing is wrong with you. God created you. You are perfect just the way you are. Of course, we all going to have issues in life and we just work through those. But you as a person, who you are, to the core of you, you're perfect. There's nothing. The Bible says, you were formed and fashioned.
So we got to listen to him, P.
In his image. If you listen to it, Alvin, or whatever, because I have to use it too. but anyway, you're wonderfully and fearfully made. There's nothing wrong with you. You may have questions about things, but that's going to be your whole life. You're going to question things. But I hope that you guys enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. It was very lively.
So I'll tell you what I like about you and our sessions here. I actually love your words of wisdom at the end. When you come up and you give them some food for thought, or where to go, find other resources or something. And I like that. I like our chat. I like them all the way through in our interactions, but I do love at the end where you have your final thoughts and your words, and you give them a little some crumbs to go and maybe take in and to help. So I really do love that. But anyway, world and Dallas. Okay, and thanks for joining us here on Tit for Tat, a little of this and that. And we will see you next Sunday at 6 p.m.
Yes.
Okay, thanks for joining us. Like, comment, share, and subscribe. And we will get back with your comments when you post them.
Yes.
Thank you. Bye, y'all.